What's up, y'all? I'm Nakia Pleasant. I'm the founder and creative director at Fiscal Agency, and today I'm going to be doing a project breakdown for Jeudi Management Group. Jeudi Management Group, aka JMG, which I'm going to be using from this point on, is a music management company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. The owner, Kirsten, is very rooted in holistic management and making sure the artist gets their shine and taking some of that stress off of them on the back end. Kirsten is also really rooted in history and Black culture within the South, and her main mission overall is just to make sure these artists get heard and our stories are being told the right way. Kirsten is actually a client that's really near and dear to my heart here at Fiscal Agency. She has just really opened my eyes to new things as a business owner, but also as a creative, and learning how to bring in more culture stories and that background, that history into my work more. And I really love the projects that she comes to me with. It definitely always keeps me inspired. So because I've worked with Kirsten before on multiple projects, I decided to take a different route because I felt more comfortable, and I think that due to the pace of this project, I was like, why don't you try something different and still get good results? And I really like what I did, and I'm actually more excited to execute this and more of my brand identity projects moving forward. So typically when you have a brand identity project, a lot of people will teach you on the internet to start with doing like a questionnaire. You start doing like asking your client all the basic questions about their wants, their needs, what they like, any competitors, and things of that sort, where it's just a lot of asking questions back and forth, trying to get in your client's head. And instead of trying to asked her so many questions, I asked her like 4 solid questions just to get the main idea of like, what's the goal here? Why are we making this brand identity? Why are we rebranding? And what does she see for the future of JMG, you know? And so with that, I felt like it was the perfect amount of questions and the right questions to ask her, because one, I already knew about her as a client. So I already knew what her take was when it comes to integrating history, integrating that southern twang or that southern touch to a lot of the design that I put into her work. And so, but I didn't know a lot about what her music management company was and where she was wanting to take it. One question that really stuck out to me was I asked her if she's seen JMG as a timeless brand. And I just asked that because it's important to know where your clients are trying to go with things. Like if they're building a brand up to start something else, that's important to know. Or if they're trying to keep this as the front runner and sail with it for a long time. And she answered the question by letting me in a little bit about her journey and how she's been working in the music industry since 2007, and JMG started in 2018. So this is a brand that is really building a legacy, and her legacy at that. So like I said, when you usually do brand identity, you have people say that you ask these questions, then you do like a discovery call, and you break down like competitors, you break down their influences, you probably show a mood board or two, you do target audience, and you essentially kind of break it down like a business plan, for instance, and then you end up breaking off, and you probably start with one thing after another, like maybe designing the logo first, presenting that, or maybe you just do full out concepts, however you want to go. But this time I decided to take my time in the research part, because I knew once I got that down, it was smooth sailing from there, and that's exactly what happened. So like I keep reiterating, Kirsten is really big on history and archiving and sharing stories and making sure that we don't forget our history, especially those who are from the South and just Black people in general. And I love that. That's right up my alley. Y'all know I love some culture. So I was super excited to dive into this, and it literally... She sent me a message the next day after she answered those few questions for me, and she sent me this message that says, as you're thinking about the branding, please consider the color blue. We included it into her other brands color palette, ATL. And because of the color and what it means for Black history, it's even more important here because of the Black musical roots. She shared a few notes for me that a writer, the name of Brother Yusuf, had contextualized some thoughts about blues and the musical genre. And what was funny was, as she answered these questions, she actually shared with me a Pinterest board full of inspiration. And so I was able to get inside of her head a little bit without me stepping in and kind of like influence it in any way. But it allowed me to see what the client was thinking about without asking like, what's your favorite color? Like awkward questions like that. I don't really love doing that with my clients. So I thought it was just nice to visually see what she captured. And I think it's also a fun exercise. Who doesn't like to pin stuff on Pinterest or like create a mood board here and there? And if your client has time, it's always nice to be able to have them do that so you can really get in their head and see what they're trying to go for. This is what her Pinterest board looks like from the get. And I was super excited, and immediately I was like, I already know what's coming down. I already know what to research, dive deeper into, and that's what I did. So fast forward, I'm now researching, I'm looking at articles, I'm looking at just old videos and documentaries about blues, and I ran across the Delta blues. I ran across just different posters of jazz music as well. I wanted to use that into the influence and inspiration of the creative direction for this brand identity. And to dive deeper into what I found in my research, a lot of my research started with the Delta blues because I am most familiar with the Delta blues. I know about the Delta due to my boyfriend and his family being raised and from that area essentially. And so I learned about sharecroppers and how sharecroppers were literally essentially the next thing after slavery pretty much. Imagine going through that, living like that. You know you're getting fake money or you're getting chump change for these things. You need an outlet. Like if I had a juke joint to go to, like, and hang out with friends and do that on a Friday night, Saturday night, yes, sign me up. And that's essentially what they did, you know? They took their time to use anything they had, essentially. I think they called them bottleneck guitars and stuff, and they would use bottle caps as the, what is that called? Like a guitar pick? They would use those and use that. They would put things on their shoes and you would hear the stumping, and like they didn't have like the most of instruments. They would use instruments from church and things like that. So the story of like how blues came about and why it has such a rich history, because it's really tied to a lot of our ancestry and stuff. So I had a lot of fun diving deep into blues and how it came about. So I'm really excited to like just share that with y'all and inspire y'all to dive deeper into the blues and learn more about it for yourself as well. And then I went into jazz posters, like I said. So I was able to dive deeper into the posters essentially, and I'm stuck on the posters because obviously I'm designing a brand identity and I'm doing graphic design. So I wanted to make sure I was focusing on a component that was going to really influence what I was creating. And what I found was also crazy because back in the day when jazz was coming about, the posters that were being made, they were not being made by Black people. They were being made by white people. And essentially the posters that were being made, if you go back and look at some of the first jazz posters, a lot of the Black people look like crazy monkey characters. How do you say, like, characters? Go listen, you know what I'm trying to say, but they look like characters from like cartoons and things like that. And I'm like, I know y'all know how to draw, because you going all out for this. And essentially, or even some of the later posters, you'll find that like, even if they did their face structure well and it looks like an actual person, some things were exaggerated. So I feel like, I don't know if you've gone to the carnival or things like that where you get your face and stuff drawn and like a lot of it's exaggerated. Back then it was on purpose. They would exaggerate the mouth and make the mouth look big, or exaggerate the big head and little body and the big nose and things like that. It was essentially still like underlining racism underneath all of that. So it got deep. It got really deep, but I was really happy that I had the opportunity to take these history lessons pretty much and turn them into something great. And it's kind of cool to see the history and see how far we've come, especially in Black music. So all of that pretty much came together for me, and I was like, all right, here we go, let's design. So I knew I wanted to make sure Jeudi had a lot of different logos to choose from. I made about 6, I believe, logos. So the first one we have is Jeudi Management, MGMT, the abbreviation for management. We have the saxophone illustration. We have the abbreviation of JMG. And then we have the whole name spelled out underneath as a lockup. We have a second lockup, the saxophone illustration mark. Below it, you have the full name spelled out, completely written out. And then you have JMG within a weird, awkward pick type of shape. I've slide out a little bit as well. And then we have a second mark as well, which is piano keys slanted to the side. And there's 3 of them. So I thought 3 kind of went with J and G because the 3 letters, you can get what I'm trying to do, right? The saxophone actually mimics the letter J. So that was pretty much an easy fix right there of like, oh, boom, that was pretty easy. A lot of the shapes in the piano, the pick, and the saxophone all have to do with the influence of those jazz posters. And speaking of those illustrations, there's also a different pack of illustrations that is a part of the brand as digital assets and brand assets essentially. So there's different parts of different instruments that have been illustrated. So let's talk about the fonts next. We have 3 different fonts within this suite. The heading font is a really thick, chunky sans serif font. I thought it just looked good with the name, to be honest. A lot of the influence in a lot of the posters and things and album covers that you would see back in the day all use chunky fonts, like everything. The lettering was always chunky and bold, and I wanted to make sure we had something like that. The paragraph font is actually something that took me a little bit of time to figure out because I just wasn't finding anything that really felt like it went and it went with the family. So, but I ended up finding this really sleek and skinnier kind of looking version of the heading font. It's a wider text in general, but I think it looks good in smaller form. And another reason I went with this font is because I was looking for something that was still professional enough, you get what I'm saying? Like something that wasn't just kind of like that bold font is already, it's bold, it's big. So I needed something that was professional, something that had more class to it essentially, and not in a bashing type of way to the heading font, but more so in of like bringing it in, because this is still a management company. We still want to come off professional and clean and sleek and show that this is a business still. And outside of her resume, I wanted her brand to also come off professional and stylish. And then the last font we're using is an SVG font file. So essentially it's not necessarily structured as a font, it's structured as a graphic, because SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, which just means that anytime the actual SVG file is used, it will never necessarily lose its quality, whether it's scaled, no matter how large it's scaled to, which is great. for any type of like marketing materials and things like that sort, to just have some more fun with things, and then on the website and things as well. And I also really liked how it was handwritten. I wanted some of that element, so did the owner, and we talked about that, just to bring some more character to the brand without doing too much illustrations, because we already had a lot. All right, so let's break down this color palette. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the color palette kind of just fell into my lap, but the main ones that didn't was those two blues that you see, that light blue and that dark blue, that dark navy color. Essentially, y'all heard that my client, she really wanted blue to be in the branding because of its association with the genre of music, blues. I just want to clear that up. And if you look up the history of blues, the name of blues actually stemmed from the color blues, and that's why you will hear people say like, I'm feeling blue, like I'm feeling sad or like feeling down. It's tied to a lot of negative emotions, but blue also comes off as being trustworthy and having peace and things like that. So if you essentially look back into how the genre of blues started, or tying this together, we see that the reason why people even started to use and play blues music was because they had that outlet. They like, who's happy living a life like that? Truly, like, you can have your happy moments, which is what blues gave, but oftentimes a lot of the music that they were writing and the lyrics that they were using was telling the truth about what they were going through. And also it was a sense of peace. Like when they were going to those juke joints and having fun, it was like their time to relax and be with friends, hang out, get a little tipsy. You know what I'm saying? So all of these things were associated with the color blue, and also relate to blues music and why it even started in the first place. You get what I'm saying? So I really loved, y'all know I love me some color psychology. Is always tying together. Essentially, like I said, the colors kind of just came together and all of a sudden started to really represent the Delta blues. Like you have the blue color for blues, you have that dark denim, which a lot of people back in that day were wearing denim jeans, denim jumpsuits, and things of that sort. A lot of the men, if they were working, you like overalls and things like that, you know. And then also you have that brown, that muddy brown, for like how a lot of the roads are back in Mississippi still to this day. No concrete, straight rocks, but in dirt. I didn't even really figure that out and figure out how the color palette related until once I closed out the branding. I was like, wow, right, this really came together. So with all that being said, that was some of the core moments that I wanted to share with you all about creating the brand identity for Jeudi Management Group. I had such a good time working on this brand identity. Like, this was right up my alley. This was 100% one of my favorite projects I've done this year. Probably one of my best brand identities that I've done in a while. Like, I just really feel like I put my foot in this. And I really went for it and dived in it with a whole different perspective. If you're interested in seeing and learning more about Jeudi Management Group, I will have links down below. You can follow and support Kirsten and her artists down below as well. You can book with Fizzle Agency as well. If you're interested and you need brand identity, or if you know somebody, please tell your auntie, your mama, your cousin, your friend, and their friend about Fizzle Agency. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will see y'all in the next project breakdown.